Hello, everybody. Welcome to this program, Jenerali Online. It's a program that I'm bringing to you from home because we have been advised, all of us, to work from home because of the coronavirus that is devastating the world. And what better way to pass this time that I'm confined to my home than to do something very useful, and this is to bring you a program that will really immerse you in my little home library. This is a collection of my books in this little alcove where I have most of my books are here. These are books I collected over time. I am an avid reader of books because I believe that in books you have a lot of information, you have a lot of insights, you have a lot of history, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, as well as a lot of fun. There are so many books here that give you so much pleasure just to sit down and read. And this time when we are in lockdown virtually, that's where I take my time to do my work, peruse my books, discover new worlds that I may have gone through when I was younger, but now they come back to me with a different meaning, with a different acuity of perspective and different flavor. As we look around this book, you will see this book on the slave trade, for instance, which is written by Hugh Thomas, which gives you, chronicles really the whole horror and the intensity and the gravity of the human trafficking story since the 15th century to the 19th century. And usually it's a balance of power between one community and another, between one nation and another, between one race and another. When you come into contact with people who are superior to you and they have a desire to impose their will on you, then you very easily become their slave if they're inclined that way, or you become their servants, or you become their colonies, and so on and so forth. So slave trade is one of the areas that I've covered in terms of collecting books, because I know it's a very painful part of the history of the African people. It is estimated that millions and millions of Africans were sold into slavery, and there they were turned into chattels that could be used by other people to produce wealth for them. Literally, like you use bullocks and cows and oxen to till the fields and so on and so forth. So you have this book here. It's one of the biggest books that I've ever read about the slave trade. But you also have smaller books, such as this one written by Stuart Lane, and is about Tipu Tip. Now, Tipu Tip is that Zanzibari Arab who did a lot of devastation in Eastern Africa, Eastern and Central Africa, actually, by going to search for ivory, copper, rubber, and slaves. At some stage, it is said in this book that Tipu Tip was made governor of Kisangani by that sinister king of Belgium, Leopold II. So you have a book here, very fascinating, about Tipu Tip, where he was born, how he was raised as a trader, and the influence he had on the mainland, all the way to Kisangani in the now Democratic Republic of Congo. And you have a book here by Alistair Hazel, which is titled The Last Slave Market, and that was in Zanzibar, and the efforts that were deployed by some Europeans, especially the Englishman Sir John Kirk, to stop that slave trade in Zanzibar, and the cat and mouse game that was being played between the British, who were bent on now ending the slave trade, although they had started as much as anybody else, and the Sultan of Zanzibar, who had to heed what the British were telling him, but who also had to pander to the desires and inclinations of the Arab traders. It's a very fascinating book as well, and I think anybody who has the time to read should be able to read it. Then here you have two characters who really could have been twins from the same mother. And this is Fidel Castro Ruz and Rotlisha Nelson Mandela Madiba. I say they could have been twins because, in spite of the fact that one was born in Ontario in Cuba, the other one was born in Transkei. They had the same philosophy, the same vision, the same approach to liberation, that they both tried something, their hand at negotiating their way out of an oppressive system. It didn't work. And when it didn't work, both Fidel Castro in Cuba and Nelson Mandela in South Africa opted for armed struggle. So Fidel organized the first time in 1953, I think, the attack on Moncada, which failed miserably, and he was arrested and sentenced to a long term in prison. Mandela started organizing Contoesi, MK, and was captured at Rivonia in 1964 and was sent to Robben Island, as we all knew. But it's very interesting that the speech that Fidel made in 1953 at Moncada, at the Moncada trial, that is to say, was almost rehashed some 6 years later when Mandela was being tried and when he was condemned at the Rivonia trial. What did Fidel do? Fidel said something like this: you may condemn me, it doesn't matter for me, I don't care. It does not matter. You condemn me, history will absolve me. This was a statement at Moncada by Fidel Castro. And at the Rivonia trial, Mandela echoed the same sentiment, the same determination, the same certainty of victory when he said, he first of all elaborated the number of things that he was prepared to fight for, the absolute right to be free and to be able to live as a free man alongside other free men and women in South Africa, or to die. And he says, these are principles by which I intend to live, but they are also principles for which I'm prepared to die. These are the two sentences which mean the same thing. So I keep these as really my mojos. They inspire me in whatever I do, because I find that this kind of courage in face. Both of them were facing a death penalty, but they said it doesn't matter. Even if you condemn me to death, I will be absorbed by history. Literally, they're saying, even if I die, history will come and say, I was right, you were wrong.